if you're watching this right now, perhaps someday in the future, you should know that it is the 14th of July in America. We have just recently passed 135,000 confirmed dead of COVID-19. And we all know at this point everything that needs to be done to stop the pandemic. We're just having this ongoing national conversation about whether we give enough of a damn to do any of it. And as this is going on, the biggest name in news had this to say about the pandemic.
This is what happens when science intersects with politics. Both lose, and the country loses most of all. Keeping kids out of school, keeping the elderly inside, forcing everyone to wear a mask when there's no evidence that helps. All of these become statements of resistance and moral imperatives.
That is Tucker Carlson broadcasting to billions of people last night saying still, 135,000 dead. There is no evidence that masks help at all. There's no scientific reason to believe that a mask would help stop the spread of a virus. And I know, Jordan, we've probably covered him saying this before. And I know, what are you going to say? But come on, that's pretty, I'm not going to say the words, but that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's just towing the line now that they're just going to try to support Trump and, the White House's new positioning, despite him at the onset, because it directly impacted him. Mm-hmm. He had a scare early on with the Bolsonaro thing at Mar-a-Lago when he was there with them. He was a little bit more serious at the beginning, and people were just kind of like hapless and being like, wow, Tucker Carlson's taking it seriously. Now Trump is listening to Tucker on this. And it's like, okay, no, obviously not, because now look, here we are in July, and that's clearly not the case. But the break from Tucker's earlier comments show that really at the end of the day, he's a party guy, and he's a Fox guy. He likes to position himself as the bold truth teller on Fox that will stick it to power. But, from partying, like I said, partying with Trump at Mar-a-Lago and Bolsonaro to now towing the line on this and deriding science, like the guy is nothing more than just a shill. He's just a flag for right-wing interests.
100%. And that is why, while I am trying to get people to acknowledge widely, in the same way that Media Matters was so instrumental year after year after year, getting people to understand what Fox News was and break the mythology that had been crafted that they're fair or balanced or anything like that, that Tucker Carlson is a racist, that I think is a pretty easy sell, but that also that he is 100% disingenuous. He's not a critical thinker. He is not bucking the establishment. He's not doing, there's no core that all of these in-depth analyses of him try to find. That doesn't exist. If anything, maybe racism, but that's it. Everything else is contingent on what's going on and what he thinks he can get. And we have a great example of that. So there he said, there is no science to wearing a mask, despite, the obvious cost of saying that. That's what he said yesterday. Now let's flash back to March 31st. Here's Tucker.
Of course masks work. Everyone knows that. Dozens of research papers have proved it. In South Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, the rest of Asia, where coronavirus has been kept under control, masks were key.
Okay, so just in case someone watching this show is a fan of Tucker Carlson, perhaps a fan of Donald Trump, and doesn't get it just yet, how much he's manipulating you.
Forcing everyone to wear a mask when there's no evidence that helps. Of course masks work. Forcing everyone to wear a mask when there's no evidence that helps. Of course masks work. Forcing everyone to wear a mask when there's no evidence that helps. Of course masks work.
Okay, so one is late March, one is July. What has changed? Well, the pandemic's only gotten worse. So all of the pressure to get the science right would lead him to have been wrong before, but right now, he's moved in the opposite direction, which means that he is reading the room. He's reading the conservative base. He has been part of training them that lockdowns are wrong, that all of this is a big hoax. You don't have to pay attention to it. There should be no inconvenience whatsoever for you. That is what has changed. It's not like those scientific articles that he was referencing in March were debunked or anything like that. If anything, there's more evidence on top of the common sense that masks help viruses stop transmitting orally. Obviously, the only thing that's changed is he thinks that his bread is buttered by implying that all of this is fake and you don't have to pay attention to it, which is why we should never allow a person for a single second to pretend that Tucker Carlson is reasonable or a critical thinker or anything other than Sean Hannity with a tighter script. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it earlier. The countries he lists, he's talking about, Southeast Asian countries and East Asian countries. We talked about it earlier. Japan's already back to having events. I mean, they banded together. They understood what they needed to do. They socially distanced. They wore masks, and there they are. And now, what are we doing? We're hemming and hawing over the efficiency of masks. We're just the laughing stock of the planet. Countries don't want Americans coming there. I mean, what? Go off, Tucker. I guess this is so reckless.
Yeah, when you reference how well some countries have done, I know that people must think like, man, what do they have that let them get through this with so little deaths? Do they have some sort of secret treatment or secret vaccine? No, it's not about what they have. It's about what they don't have. They don't have Tucker Carlson. And people like him. Ben Shapiro is probably not that popular in Japan. If I had to guess, I would say. We don't have this media infrastructure that billionaires have been pumping money into for literally decades to convince people that when a pandemic knocks on your door, you should open the door and breathe in heavily. That is what we have. And it's killing people.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.